The European Union is facing a crisis on two fronts. Externally, Brussels has been sidelined from the real peace negotiations on Ukraine, watching from the margins as global power brokers shape outcomes elsewhere. Internally, the fractures are now spilling into the open. Two NATO member states, Hungary and Slovakia, are no longer whispering dissent. They are directly questioning Brussels' authority, strategy, and credibility from inside the room.
From the beginning, our position is clear that this conflict has no military solution and we want to help humanitarianly. And it is necessary, above all, to diplomatically ensure the end of this war. This means that this is our absolute priority.
What prevails here in Brussels can only be adequately described figuratively as war fanaticism. Practically in Brussels and in several European capitals, they have decided that the functioning of the Ukrainian state, the arming of the Ukrainian army, and their war will also be paid for by European people.
This is no longer a disagreement over tactics. Hungary and Slovakia are challenging the very direction Brussels has chosen, accusing EU leadership of abandoning diplomacy, normalizing permanent war financing, and pushing decisions that many member states never signed up for. The significance is hard to miss. Both critics are NATO members, speaking not from the periphery, but from the core of Europe's security architecture. One of the deepest fault lines runs through Brussels' plan to fund Ukraine using frozen Russian assets. What EU leaders describe as innovation, Budapest and Bratislava see as a legal and financial time bomb, one that could permanently damage Europe's credibility in global markets and international law.
Some exaggerate, I will say it very clearly, the confiscation of these frozen assets. And some are very careful to deal with these assets because it brings enormous risks in terms of international credibility, which would not have been done even during the Second World War. What would be done today?
The European Union violates its own rules to such an extent that here, not just the horse's leg is showing, but practically the complete stable.
Beyond legality, both governments are openly questioning Brussels' judgment on Ukraine itself. They point to corruption scandals, financial opacity, and internal strain, warning that unconditional support risks turning EU taxpayers into silent financiers of a system they cannot audit or control.
Ukraine is facing enormous internal pressure, which is also caused by the corruption scandal, which certainly did not contribute to sanctions, but also to external pressure because Ukraine is in a relatively bad situation in terms of support and finances.
They want to send 80,000 billion forints to a country where corruption is organized at the state level, where a war mafia operates, and to a country where we have no idea what the money sent there so far by European taxpayers was spent on.
The challenge goes even deeper. Hungary and Slovakia are rejecting what they describe as Ukraine's growing influence over EU decision-making, from war funding to enlargement, arguing that Brussels is allowing a non-member state to shape policies that will define Europe's future security.
It is completely irrelevant to me what President Zelensky says. It is completely irrelevant what the Ukrainian foreign minister says. This is a European Union decision. The Hungarian people decide, not the Ukrainians.
The position of Slovakia is still the same, unchanged. The Slovak Republic will not support such a confiscation, but at the same time, it will not support any guarantees that the Slovak Republic should have in terms of financing the part of the military conflict.
For Brussels, the optics are stark. As the EU struggles to secure a seat at the peace table, it is now battling open rebellion within its own ranks. Two NATO members are publicly questioning EU authority, EU strategy, and EU leadership, exposing a union divided not just over Ukraine, but over what Europe itself is becoming.